So in the last class, we started with microservices. Just let me go with a recap today. So what is this microservices? Microservices is used to break up single large monolithic system into multiple independent components. It's mainly for what purpose? To break up single large monolithic system. What is the meaning of monolithic system? All functionalities are part of one single program. If you take this example I've taken yesterday, like if you take a shopping application, so we are going with the components like buyer profile, catalog management, cart management, all the functionalities we create in one web project and we deploy only into one server and we connect only to one database. So whereas in the case of microservices architecture, the components are built and deployed independently. We build the components independently and we can deploy them independently. And finally, we have to integrate to make it as a single larger system. In the case of microservices, here we are going with example like buyer profile. We are creating like a microservice using Java technology, deployed in Tomcat server, connected to Oracle database. Catalog management, we are creating like a microservice using .NET technology, deployed in IIS server, connected to SQL Server database. Cart management, we are creating like a microservice using PHP, deployed in WAM server, connected to MySQL database. So from client, using this API gateway, so API gateway acts like what? It's a mediator between your end user and your APIs. So using this API, it's going to invoke the respective services here, right? There. And we have seen the advantages like they are loosely coupled and it gives developers to freedom to independently develop and deploy the services. And scalability improvement will be there. We can add new functionalities very easily and we can make use of different languages to develop these services. And we are having some of the important terminologies like service registry. What is the main use? It's going to provide the details of all services registered with service registry. So to go with this service registry, we are going to make use of Netflix Eureka server, which is provided by Spring Cloud here, Spring Cloud Netflix library. And one more time, API gateway. It's mainly to manage your backend APIs and it acts like a mediator between your end users and backend APIs. And admin server, it's mainly to monitor and manage your backend services. So whenever we create services, we are registered with this admin server also. And we are registered even with service registry. Two places we are registered our services. And Feign client, this is important. It's mainly for inter-service communication. One service can communicate other service using Feign client. So today we are going to discuss this. Then services. This is our actual code. This is our Springboard REST APIs. We have seen this example. Like here we have taken two services like greet service and welcome service. And once we create service, we have to register in admin server and even we are registering service registry. If the service registry is port number 8761, automatically this will get registered with your Eureka server. They will automatically get registered. And to invoke one service with other service, we are going to make use of Feign client. Now, if you take this application, so what we have done initially, we have created one service registry. And what dependencies we need to add for service registry? Mainly Eureka server. So we have to mark your registry as Eureka server. Then above your Spring Boot entry class, we have to use which annotation above the class? @enable Eureka server. And we have to provide the property details. Like let me show that. Service registry. Here. Above your Spring Boot entry class, we have to use the annotation @enable Eureka server. Then in this application.properties file, we are providing the server port number as 8761. Now, let us run this service now. Right click and say run as Spring Boot app. Open browser and type the URL http://localhost 8761. See, it's opening this Spring Eureka dashboard, and here you can see instances currently registered with Eureka. No instances are available. There. Once we configure this Eureka server, the next one what we have done, we have configured admin server. So we have configured admin server, and in dependencies what we have done, we have added Spring Boot and admin. Admin is coming from where? Code centric, and it says Spring Boot admin. We have to choose server here. Then for your Spring Boot application, above the class, we have to use which annotation? @enable admin server. Let me show this. If you open this admin server, here this is our Spring Boot entry class. Above this, we have to use which annotation? @enable admin server. And in properties file, we are giving the port number as 2222. So admin server is running in port number 2222. Any port number we can use, no problem here. Okay. Now let us run this admin server. Right click and say run as Spring Boot app. Now open browser and type the URL http://localhost:2222. It's going to open our Spring Boot admin and see applications are 0, instances are 0. Means no services are registered. Now the next one, we are creating the services now. So for that we have created one service, Greet API service, and we are adding what dependencies in Spring Web Eureka Discovery Client. This is important. Here we have to add what? As a client, Eureka Discovery Client, so that this service will get registered with Eureka server. Okay, when you mark it as Eureka Discovery Client. Then one more admin, and that too code centric Spring Boot admin, and we have to choose client. And one more accutator. This one also we have to register. We have to add as project dependencies. Right? And above the Spring Boot entry class, we have to use which annotation? @enable discovery client here. Let me show this part. Coming to Greet service. About this Spring Boot entry class, we are using which annotation? @enable discovery client. Then in application.properties file, we are giving the name to your service like Greet API, and the port number we are giving it as 3333. And we have to register our service with admin. How to register our service with admin server? By using this property, spring.boot.admin.client URL. So we are just providing the location of your admin server. And we have to provide the endpoints. So endpoints we are giving it as star here. Means it can be any endpoint. Now, right? We have developed up to here. Now run this one as Spring Boot app. Run as Spring Boot app. Open browser and check it here. See applications 1 instances run. And if you reload this page, see your Greet API is now registered with Eureka. Clear up to here, all of you? Any questions? Right? Now, moving further here, we have just created the Greet service and we have registered with Eureka server. Means service registry. Eureka server or service registry, both the meanings are same. So we are managing service registry using Eureka server. That's the actual part here. Now let us go with create a REST controller class. So if I want to make my application to be distributable, REST controller class we have to create. REST controller class. Let me go with the name Greet REST controller in the package. Greet REST controller. Under the package, let us create a new class, greet REST controller. Now mark it as a REST controller. How to mark it? Using annotation @REST controller. Now in this class, let me go with the method public string greet message. Public string greet message. Here we are going to return hello the message. Hello Raj Technologies. Right? Now mark it as @get mapping, and we are mapping with what here? Greet. So we are just creating one REST controller class with the method greet message, and we are mapping it as get mapping greet. So when we invoke this API using greet, it's going to invoke this service. And what is the location? Port number 3333. Remember this. Now let me run this project. Let me stop this and rerun. Now open browser to check your API working or not. http://localhost:3333/greet. Now see, we are getting the result here. It's giving the response back to us. So we can even test it using Postman also. Anything is fine. Now, so we have done up to now the great service. Now, let us move to the next one. Let us go with the next one. Let us create one more Spring Starter project. localhost:3333/greet. Now let us go with the next one. Welcome API service. So here, create a Spring Starter project. Create a Spring Starter project. Let us go with the name Welcome API Service. We'll go with the name Welcome API Service. Next one, type Maven Java version 17 group. Artifact, it takes the name Welcome API Service package. Click next. Next step, add the following project dependencies. What dependencies we need to add here is Spring Web. Then next one, code centric. Just you can search for admin. So here we have to choose code centric Spring Boot admin, and we have to choose client here. We have to choose what here? Client. Then next one, Eureka Discovery Client. We are marking it as client, the service. Next one, Spring Boot Acquator. Next, very important one, Open Feign. So what is the use of Feign? I said this Feign is mainly for what purpose? To communicate one service with other service, which we call Feign client. So in order to communicate one service other service, we are going to make use of what is Open Feign. Click finish. Let us do the steps now. Create a new Spring Starter project. Go with the name Welcome API Service. Click on Next. Choose the dependencies Spring Web. Then next one, admin. In this we have to choose what here? Client. Code centric Spring Boot admin client we have to choose. Then next one, Eureka discovery client. Next, Accutator. Then next one, Open Feign. So these dependencies we need to add. Then what dependencies we need to add? All these dependencies. Just a second. Problem with the pen. Now, so these dependencies we are adding over here. Now, once we have created this REST API, the Spring Boot project, that is Welcome API Service. Our next step is we need to add which annotation? @enable discovery client. So where we should add, sorry, we have to click on finish now. Now, your welcome service is created. Now, here go to this file, the Spring Boot entry point, welcome API service application. So above this class, we have to use which annotation to mark it as a Eureka client? What annotation? Enable discovery client. Right? So we have to just use this annotation to mark this as what? It's a Eureka client. Then once we have done this, now let me document this. Update this Java file by adding the following annotation. What is that? @enable discovery client. Our next step is update application.properties file. We have to provide the name of the service and we have to change the port number. If you are not changing port number, it takes default 8080. Now open this application.properties file. So go with the spring.application.name. Let us go with the name welcome API. Then the next one, let us go with the port number server.port. It is 4444. I'm taking any port number. Then next one, we are to register with admin. So for that, spring.admin.client.url. So what is that URL? http://localhost:/2222. So admin server is running in port number 2222. Next one, endpoints management.endpoints.web.exposure include as star. So this completes our application.properties file. Now run this project up here. Right click and say run as Spring Boot app. Once we run, now check it here in Eureka. Check it, 2 services got added into our registry now. In the service registry, that is Eureka server, we have added 2 services. One is Greet API and Welcome API. And you can even find the location where the services are running. And check this admin. See, 2 applications are running here. So one is Greet API and one more is Welcome API. Right? Now the applications are running. So the applications are registered with Eureka. What is our next step? Run welcome API service as Spring Boot. Okay. Open browser. Not open browser is not required. Check for instances. That's it. Now the next step. Let us create one REST controller here. Create a REST controller class. Create REST controller class. Let me go with the name welcome REST controller in the package. Welcome REST controller. Now, let us create one REST controller class under welcome service. How to mark it as REST controller at the rate REST controller. Now, in this, let us create a method public string get welcome message. We are going with a method get welcome message. So here we'll say string welcome message equal to welcome to some message. It's up to you. Okay. Now say return this message. And we have to do the mapping. How to do the mapping? At the rate get mapping slash welcome. We are doing the mapping part as parts slash welcome. Now run this project now. I'm just stopping and rerunning this. So to check whether the service is running properly or not. Now run your welcome service again, stop it and run. So if you are not stopping, it says already the port is already in use. That's the reason we are stopping and rerunning. Now open browser and type the URL http://localhost:4444/welcome. See, we are getting the message here. We are getting the message. Right? Both are like hello only now. So let us change this. Read service. So let me just say here hello, good evening. Now, so we have created the services here. Observe here. We have done with what here? We have done with service registry. We have done with service registry. This one is completed. Admin server is completed. And create service is completed. And welcome service is completed. And we have registered these all services into admin server as well as service registry. These all things are done now. Now one service want to communicate with other service. This is the very important one because in reality one service will communicate with other service. So to communicate one service other service, we are going to make use of what? Feign client. So in order to use this Feign client, so what we need to do is the next step is create an interface. Create Feign client to invoke Greet API. In order to invoke Greet API, what we are doing, we are creating one interface called as Greet Feign client. Let me create here where we have to create under welcome service only. We are creating one interface. Let us go with the name Greet Feign client. We are going with what name? Greet Feign client. Say finish. Now, here in this one, what we have to do is which client I should invoke now? What is the API we have given? What is the name given to this greet service? Check it here in application.properties file. What is the name here? Greet API. So if I want to invoke this greet API, so I should use this application name. So how to use that application name over here is above this interface, we have to say use the annotation @Feign client, @Feign client, name equal to which service I want to invoke now? Greet API. We want to invoke which service? Greet API. Now, in this interface, create one method, public string, invoke greet API. We have to create one method, invoke greet API. And this method should map with what? Get mapping, get mapping, great. So whenever we invoke this method, invoke greet API, for this method, what mapping we have done? Greet. So when you do this mapping with greet, what is going to happen? It goes to your greet REST controller, and since we have mapped this method with this greet, then this method will get executed. So from your welcome service, I'm invoking greet service. So both the services are communicating by using this interface here. So for communicating purpose only, we are going to make use of Feign client. Right? Clear? This Feign client, what is the need of Feign client? To communicate one service with another service. So here to do that, just to create one interface, any interface name, and we have to use the annotation @Feign client and specify the name of the service which you want to invoke. Create some method. Above that method, we have to give the API, which API you want to invoke. Since I want to invoke this method, we have to provide the API of this method. So that only we have done here. Then, once this is completed, come to this welcome REST controller. So from this get welcome message, I need to invoke now greet API. So how to do that one is, in this class, go with a property greet Feign client. So we are injecting this greet Feign client. Sorry. So we are injecting what? This one. We are injecting this greet Feign client. Then once we inject this, now in this method by using this greet client, I need to invoke which one? This invoke greet method. So when I call this method, what is the mapping we have done? Greet. Then automatically it goes to this greet service. This method will get invoked. Now let us see how to do that. So here we have taken welcome message. Now let me take greet message. Let me take greet message. So how to take that message? Just by using this greet client, we have to invoke which method? Invoke greet API. So once I say greet client dot invoke greet API, it automatically goes to this greet controller and this method will get invoked. This message will be returned back to this. That message will be returned here. Now what you do? In this return, you say greet message, then go with a comma, then add welcome message. So I'm displaying greet message as well as welcome message. Now run this project now. I'm stopping welcome API. Stopping welcome API. Then run your project once again. See now, check your services. So no instances are available. So let us stop everything and rerun it again one by one. Stop the service registry also. Now let us run one by one now. Let us initially go with service registry, run as Spring Boot app. Check it here. Eureka server, no instances are available. Now run your admin server. Check it here, admin server. So we are having 0 applications running. Then next one, let us run Greet API. Running Greet API. Now check it here, Eureka. See, so one service got registered with Eureka, and Spring Boot admin, see, one application is running. That is Greet API. Then, similar way, you run Welcome API. Now check it here. Problem.
Sure. Yeah.
So what mistake we have done? So we have given port number, application name, and my admin client URL, and endpoints. Management.endpoints.web.exposure.include star. Okay. We have to use one more because as we are using this Feign client, no? one more annotation we have to use, that is enable PR client. So this annotation also we have to use above the class. I missed out this. Right? Now, let us run this. Right click and say run as Spring Boot app. Take it here. Right. The services are coming. C2 applications are running and greet service is running. And let us even run this welcome service. So when I'm running welcome service, we are getting this message from where? From greet service. And this is the message you are getting from welcome service. So one service is communicating to other service. So how they are communicating? By using the name. How they are communicating? By using the name of the service here. So if you are not having this microservices, if I want to invoke one service in another service, we have to mention the complete location. We have to give this complete location. So this location we have to use in order to invoke the service. So if when you want to invoke this great service from welcome, we have to completely provide this location. So what is the drawback of this location? In future, if I change this port number to something like 8888, again we have to go back to the code and change the port number. So if your service changes the location, we have to go to other services and modify the code based on your change. So that is the place for integration purpose only. We are going to give the name to your service. By using the names only, we can able to communicate one service with another service. So in order to communicate one service with another service, we have to register our services with service registry. So if you are not registering our service with service registry, we cannot invoke one service with another service here. Clear this point, all of you? Any questions? Right? That's it. Okay. So please practice this compulsory, very, very important one, microservices. Okay. So we have done just like an introduction only. In future, we'll see more on this microservices once again. Okay. So let us start with this Java related things like Spring Boot and microservices. And let me start off with the new one. Is it fine to go with tomorrow? Tomorrow, let us start off with Angular, or would you like to take some small break? It's up to you. If you require some time to practice on this, we can have a break tomorrow and we can start with Angular from Monday onwards. Neha and Sucharita.
Yeah, okay, sure.
If we can take the break and we practice everything like what you have
Right. Yeah.
spoken
Just
on
you
this.
take the break and have a practice. So if you practice now, then you can have some idea on this Spring Boot and microservices. Because in Angular, again, I want to use this Spring Boot. So when I'm using in Angular Spring Boot, I won't be elaborating the concepts of Spring Boot again. That's the reason. Have a small practice on this. Okay. Do
Yeah.
just recap all the concepts once again. Because in Angular, we use HTTP REST APA. Sorry, HTTP client module. So by using HTTP client module, we can invoke our Spring Boot services, the REST APIs. So for that, compulsory you should have background of Spring Boot and mainly practice Spring Data JPA and Spring REST module. These two modules are very, very important to understand HTTP client module of Angular. So have a small practice this 3 days and next week we'll start off with Angular. Okay. So once we complete Angular, our front end part will be done. So once you are good with backend and front end, then we can learn some tools and we can start working with the projects. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Let me push our project into repository. commit. Git push. Right, now the code is ready in this Git URL. Okay, so from here you can take the code and practice. Okay, right. So next Monday we'll have class on next Monday. Let me write here. No class tomorrow. Next class will be please make a note. However, I'll send a message to you also personally. Right? Yeah. So thank you all and happy weekend. Have a good practice. Yeah. Thank you all.